This episode is sponsored in part by our friends over at Sono Bello. Genetics can be truly amazing. Maybe you inherited your mom's beautiful eyes, her radiant skin, or a smile that lights up the room. But sometimes, not always, but sometimes, we inherit traits that we wish we could change. Like those areas of our body that just don't feel like us. It's not uncommon to catch yourself thinking, ugh, I got my mom's belly and love handles. But remember, genetics don't have to define your confidence. You deserve to feel great in your own skin, and that includes loving the way you look. Don't let genetics hold you back. Explore the permanent solutions at Sono Bello and take the first step toward the body that you've always wanted. Our friends over at Sono Bello are offering you their literal best deal. You're now included in their winter savings event. But appointments are limited, so if you want this, you need to get on this now. Sono Bello doctors are masters in micro laser fat removal. It's this brilliant technique that removes stubborn fat permanently. That's right, permanently. Wherever your problem areas are, whether it's your tummy, love handles, thighs, even your arms, it's gone in one comfortable visit. Yes, eating healthy and workouts are great. Keep doing that. But if you want to lose that stubborn fat in just one visit, check out Sono Bello. You can save big during their winter savings event. Schedule your free consultation now at sonobello.com/diaries. That's Sono Bello, BELLO.com/diaries. You know what I don't miss at all? That brutal week before my period when I'm exhausted and all I want is sweets. All of them. I'm talking chocolate, cookies, chips, basically anything with sugar or salt. It's like my body takes over and I can't stop. That's when I found Happy Mammoth. It's so much easier to manage PMS with their estro control. Happy Mammoth is the company that created Hormone Harmony, and they're dedicated to making women's lives easier. That means using only science-backed ingredients that have been proven to work for women. They make no compromise when it comes to quality, and honestly, it shows. The biggest benefit to Hormone Harmony is really feeling like myself again. That's what women mention over and over in their reviews. And there are literally over 17,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code DIARIES at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DIARIES for 15% off today. A special thanks to Happy Mammoth for sponsoring today's episode.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
To listen to episodes early and ad-free, head over to patreon.com/themurderdiariespod. For $2.99, you'll be getting your episodes early and you will be listening ad-free. We recently streamlined for our ad-free experience to be on Patreon only. So head over there now, patreon.com/themurderdiariespod to listen early and ad-free. Thanks to all of our awesome subscribers.
Welcome to the Murder Diaries. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Paige.
We have a quick disclaimer before we begin today's episode. The following case is based on facts and information available at the time of publication. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The timeline reflects the events as they have been reported and shared by reliable sources. The last time anyone heard from 39-year-old Nikki Cheng-Saelee McCain was on the evening of May 17th, 2024. She sent a text to her sister saying that she was visiting her estranged husband's brother in a Redding, California hospital, and that she would be returning her mother-in-law's car to her mother-in-law's house at the nearby Redding Ranchera Reservation. Before long, Nikki's friends and family began to realize that no one had heard from her in days. And 1 week following the text she sent to her sister, Nikki's Chevy Avalanche was discovered abandoned alongside a lonesome road in an extremely rural and desolate area more than 40 miles from where Nikki lived. Despite extensive searches to find her, no one could explain why Nikki's truck was found so far from home. And there was no answer for the question of what had happened to her. It was as if Nikki had vanished into thin air. Strikingly beautiful, Nikki Cheng-Saelee McCain was a beloved mother, daughter, and sister, who at the time of her disappearance still had so much more life to live. Her compassion for others is what her friends and family remember most about Nikki. Her sister described her as extremely forgiving, unceasingly positive, and someone who could be your biggest cheerleader. So what happened to Nikki in the early hours of that mid-May night? At the time of the recording of this podcast, it's been nearly a year since she went missing. And both her family and authorities are still trying to piece together any clues and information that will hopefully one day help bring Nikki home. This is her story.
Used to think it's in my head, but I'm walking with the dead.
And the story of Nikki begins more than 4 decades ago and thousands of miles away in Southeast Asia. Her parents had been living in Laos during the Vietnam War, but they were granted asylum by the U.S. government. Therefore, they were permitted to relocate to a refugee camp in Thailand. This is where they lived for more than a decade, until Nikki was born on November 9th, 1984. She was one of 4 children that her parents welcomed into the world during that time in Thailand. With hopes of a brighter future and their stake in the American dream, Nikki's parents relocated the family to Seattle, Washington, and then later moved down to Redding, California, where 3 more children were born, bringing the total number of Saelee children to 7. So 3 boys and 4 girls once the family was in Redding.
The move to the Pacific Northwest had been a strategic one for the family because it put them closer in proximity to a network of extended family members who had previously migrated to California. Nikki's sister Kay says about the early years in California, we all found each other and we all lived together in the same communities. We were very close with our cousins growing up amongst our age group, mostly boy cousins, so our sisters became a lot closer, and that remained throughout childhood, through teen years, and then into adulthood as well. We're all very close.
Growing up, Nikki had a big personality. She was a little on the shy side, but she compensated with a bubbly attitude. And as a result, she was admired by friends and family for always looking for the good in other people. She was forgiving to a fault and had a big heart and was ready to forgive anyone for anything if she thought they deserved another chance. Her sister Chloe fondly recalls her sense of humor. Nikki was really funny, Chloe said. She loved laughing and just giggling. Everything was just really funny to her. She took everything lightheartedly. She's the type of person that was always positive no matter what. Nikki would be the person you'd call if you had nothing to do on a Saturday afternoon, like, hey, let's go shopping or let's go look for junk. And she'd be like, yeah, let's go. Her sister Kay echoed the same sentiment, saying she would find the fun in everything. When Nikki was in her late 20s, she took a job as a cocktail waitress at the Wynne River Resort and Casino, located at the Rancheria Reservation in Redding. That's where she met Tyler McCain, a member of the Rancheria tribe and a slot machine department employee. Nikki's sister Kay was also working at the casino at the same time Nikki came on board. Rumors began swirling as an obvious romance sparked between Nikki and Tyler. Nikki's sister Kay described Tyler as having a flirtatious, charming, and outgoing personality. But as Nikki got to know Tyler, she discovered a shyness in him that made her fall for him even more. But there was a darker side to Tyler. He'd had brushes with the law, including felony burglary and misdemeanor vandalism charges from 2008. The burglary charge was ultimately dismissed, and Tyler pleaded guilty to the misdemeanor on the condition that he served 3 years of probation for the offense. If anyone doubted the seriousness of Nikki and Tyler's feelings for each other, it ended when wedding bells rang for the two of them in 2010. And shortly after they were married, Nikki and Tyler set up a home together on a 3.5-acre property on Olinda Road in the countryside of Happy Valley. It was here they began to grow a family together over the next decade, eventually having 4 children, 3 girls and a boy. But the storybook marriage and family life wouldn't last long. This episode is sponsored in part by our friends at Hers. Let's face it, weight loss can feel overwhelming to say the least. That's why Hers is changing the game. By providing access to GLP-1 medications plus expert care, they make your goals more achievable. Hers is literally transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans that are delivered straight to your door if prescribed. Hers offers a holistic weight loss program with personalized solutions that include compounded GLP-1 weekly injections that feature the same active ingredient as Ozempic and Wegovy, or even oral medication kits. It's so easy to do. Here's how it works. After you submit an online intake form, a licensed medical provider will determine what plan is best for you. If prescribed, your program includes medication, ongoing care, and online support, and it's all at one low cost. Weight loss plans are more affordable through Hers with compounded GLP-1 injections starting at $165 per month. That's with a 12-month plan paid up front for new subscribers. No hidden fees, and absolutely no membership fees. So if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey, it's time you find the best option that works for you through Hers. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/diaries. That's forhers.com/diaries for your personalized weight loss treatment options. Forhers.com/diaries. Hers weight loss is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. The best piece of money advice I ever got was simple. Practice saving instead of spending. I know it sounds basic, but trust me, it really hit home. Just a few bucks for my paycheck tucked away for a rainy day. And at first it seemed like a tiny step, but then I realized how much that little habit had the potential to grow over time. It clicked that saving and investing aren't just about building a cushion for emergencies. They're about setting yourself up for a stronger future. That's why I love Acorns. It makes saving and investing feel so effortless, kind of like how that small savings habit started. Over time, those small contributions add up and gives your money the chance to grow. It's one of the best ways to build on a simple habit and let time do the heavy lifting for you. Today's episode is sponsored by Acorns. Acorns is a financial wellness app that makes it easy to start saving and investing for your future. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you get started with the spare money you've got right now, even if all you've got is spare change. I sincerely believe Acorns is a game changer because it makes investing easy and accessible for anyone, even if you're just starting with spare change. For me, it turned a small habit of saving into a bigger strategy for the future, giving my money a chance to grow without me having to think about it, just like that first step of putting a few bucks away. Sign up now and join the over 13 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $22 billion with Acorns. Head to acorns.com/diaries or download the Acorns app to get started. Paid non-client endorsement compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorn Advisors LLC and SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/diaries.
This episode is brought to you by Pluto TV. Are you looking for your next case? Pluto TV has all your favorite crime dramas streaming for free, which means suspicion is free, with countless cases to crack. Watch CSI, Criminal Minds, NCIS, Blue Bloods, Tracker, FBI, and SWAT, all for free from all your favorite devices. Feel the free. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Today, the beverage aisle looks a lot different than it used to. America's beverage companies are working together. We're delivering the options everyone wants. In fact, nearly 60% of beverages Americans buy have zero sugar. You'll find more variety than ever, including more of your favorites, now available with zero sugar. You'll also find more sizes and clear calorie information on the front of every can, bottle, and pack. We know when it comes to finding balance, the more choices, the better.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
By 2020,
Tyler was working as a spa manager at the Wynne River Resort and Spa, and Nikki was a stay-at-home mom. But in March of that year, COVID disrupted the lives of everyone everywhere. And due to the pandemic restrictions, Tyler was furloughed from his job at the spa. When Tyler was forced to stay at home, he began to isolate himself and do drugs in his garage. Nikki's sister Kay remembers this time well. She said the spa closed down. The kids were staying home from school. I believe they were 100% home from school. I think at the time it was when Tyler's sister had moved in, and I remember she expressed frustration to us about how Tyler was just hanging out in the garage a lot more. Nikki begged Tyler to participate with the family, but all this did was spark arguments between the two of them. Kay said, I believe around this time they would start to get in more fights. I don't know if this is when it got physical or maybe they just became more elevated, the verbal arguments. There was a good year or two where we didn't get to see them that much. A year of marriage to Tyler passed before Nikki's family understood just how bad things had gone between the two of them. Police were called out to the McCain home on numerous occasions. Kay described her impression of that time, saying, I think she really disliked Tyler's sister living with them. And she was accusing him of doing drugs, and those were big fights. And he said, how dare you accuse me of that? And then I think those verbal altercations got physical if they weren't physical before. I think they got more physical. Now, to be clear, the severity of the fighting between her sister and Tyler wasn't just speculation by Kay. Multiple people were witnesses to the physical abuse. Early on during the pandemic, Tyler was drinking heavily, was arrested, and pled guilty to a DUI after it was discovered that his blood alcohol was more than double the legal limit. He received 3 years probation and had to use an ignition interlock device on his car. But that didn't do anything to quell the fighting and abuse at home. At one point, Nikki was heard screaming for her life as Tyler attacked her. A witness found Nikki running down the road barefoot, her feet bleeding from glass that had broken in her home. The witness who helped her also saw abrasions on her face and body, swollen lips and bruises around her neck that looked like handprints. Another time, Tyler was seen chasing Nikki around the outside of their home with a large wrench. There were other reports of Tyler threatening to decapitate Nikki. And one time, he even poured gasoline all over her car. As the COVID restrictions loosened, Nikki was able to see her family more. And this is when she began confiding to her sisters about everything, all of the terrible things that had been happening to her. And despite the abuse, Nikki was really hoping that the relationship would return to what it had been before things had gotten so violent and so dark.
According to Safe Family Justice Centers, the cycle of abuse is a repeating pattern that keeps victims trapped in harmful relationships. The circle often involves periods of building tension, explosive incidents, reconciliation, then calm. This lulls victims into believing that everything will be okay. Kay believes that Nikki's inherent ability to see the good in others prevented her from filing police reports against Tyler. She didn't want to be the one to officially fracture their family life.
Kay said, Nikki would tell us I called the police, but I didn't report anything when they came. And that happened a lot. We told her, anytime that happens, if you call the police, you need to say something. Because now they're going to think you're wasting their time. But she was still wanting things to go back to the way that they were before. So she didn't want him to get in trouble. She didn't want a record. She didn't want any of that. And when things got too out of hand at home with Tyler, Nikki and her kids would spend a day or two at her parents' house or at the houses of her sisters. And this is when Nikki's sister Chloe would receive texts from a seemingly remorseful and apologetic Tyler. He was trying to woo Nikki back by writing things like, can you tell Nikki I love her and I'll change? Or tell Nikki I love her and I hope to see her soon. Or even, can you ask Nikki if she wants to go out of town with me for a few nights? If she doesn't want to go, the house will be free for her to get her things she's needing in the meantime. But as much as Tyler tried to make himself look like the loving, repentant, good guy, the abuse continued when Nikki and her kids returned home. In fact, things got so bad that the Redding Rancheria Tribal Court had to intervene to protect the McCain kids. Initially, the kids were placed with a few of Tyler's tribal family members, but eventually Nikki's sisters Kay and Chloe were granted shared guardianship. But even this drastic measure didn't help stop the violence. There was one occasion where Tyler's mother, Jeanette, got into a physical altercation with Nikki at Jeanette's home. The police were called and Tyler's mother filed a complaint against Nikki. The irony here being, despite all that Tyler had put Nikki through, Nikki is the one who suddenly had the police record. Nikki's sisters begged Nikki at this point to begin to take her situation more seriously and report any and all future abuse. This brings us to a pivotal event in November of 2023, where the violence against Nikki escalated to its worst point thus far. An attack by Tyler so brutal that it left Nikki hospitalized. On the evening of November 29th, Nikki arrived at her house between 8:15 and 8:30. Tyler wasn't home, so Nikki went to their bedroom and began combing her hair. Tyler arrived about 15 minutes later and entered their bedroom. Nikki could sense that he was extremely agitated and irritable, making no sense as he talked almost incoherently. And without warning, Tyler was on her, throwing her down and pinning her to the ground before dragging her around by her feet and legs. Over and over, he screamed at Nikki, saying, "What's going on? What are you doing?" The look in his eyes said it all. They were glazed over, empty, almost dead. And Nikki was more than scared. She was terrified. Using a calm voice, she tried to de-escalate the situation. But all that did was make Tyler angrier. He began verbally assaulting her, hitting her across the face several times with an open hand, pulling her hair, and then pouring water all over her from a jug that had been sitting on a nearby dresser. The verbal and physical abuse continued for 3 hours that November night. Tyler tied Nikki's wrists and ankles together with white masking tape and even sealed a strip of tape over her mouth, but not so tight that she couldn't breathe. Once she was restrained, Tyler flipped Nikki onto her stomach, straddled her back, and then violently yanked her head back, and then told her he was going to kill her. At one point during the attack, he even attempted to wrap something, possibly an item of clothing, around her neck, but wasn't successful. It was in that moment that Nikki was sure she was going to die. But eventually she caught a break. At around 11:30 p.m., Tyler left the bedroom for several minutes, and Nikki took that opportunity to free herself from her bindings. She grabbed a robe and her keys, and she escaped to her truck outside. But it wasn't long before Tyler was hot on her heels, chasing her down the driveway as she tried to pull away. He even jumped on the hood of the truck, yelling at her to stop. But Nikki kept driving, leaving Tyler behind in the swirling dust kicked up by her tires. After staying with her mom for a few days, Nikki's sister Chloe insisted that Nikki go to the hospital to have her injuries examined by a doctor. It was clear that Nikki had trauma from the beating she took from Tyler, including swollen black and blue eyes and abrasions on her forehead and face. At the hospital, Officer Jerry Mall from the Shasta County Sheriff's Office came to speak with Nikki. She explained to Officer Mall what had happened at her home, and then confirmed that her husband, Tyler McCain, was the person who was responsible. When asked if Tyler had assaulted her before, she told Mall that he had, but it had never been this severe. She also said that she hadn't been in contact with Tyler in the 3 days since the attack. When asked if Tyler used any illegal substances, Nikki said that he had, but she wasn't 100% sure what he used, saying it might be methamphetamines. Nikki also promised the officer that she wouldn't be returning home, and that instead she would be staying with her sister. Officer Mall recommended that she get a restraining order against Tyler, and he also provided Nikki with some resources on domestic violence and informed her of her rights as a victim.
While she was at the hospital, Nikki met a victim's advocate who may have been responsible for giving Nikki the courage to press charges against Tyler. Nikki's sister remembers that day very well. Quote, "I think she realized how serious it was. I think she was like, whoa, this is scary. I could have died." I'm checking out online with a company I love, like Thrive Cosmetics, and I know that they use Shopify. I know as a consumer, I'm in good hands, and the company that I'm shopping with makes some pretty good decisions, if I do say so myself. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And it's not so secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%. This means there's way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. It's no surprise, businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same system that Hailey Bieber trusts with Rode, that Selena Gomez trusts with Rare, and that Emma Chamberlain trusts with Chamberlain Coffee. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/murderdiaries, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/murderdiaries to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/murderdiaries.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places. Between payroll, your tax consultant, and the IRS. If your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Once Nikki agreed to press charges against Tyler, Officer Mall contacted other deputies and asked that they meet him at Nikki and Tyler's Olinda Road address. And upon arriving, as the officers approached the house, Tyler walked outside, gave himself up, and he was read his rights. He was shortly taken into custody without incident. But things changed at the police station. During questioning, Tyler began to weave a string of lies. It was his attempt to contradict Nikki's story. Now, when he was asked if he had seen Nikki and the wounds on her face, Tyler said that he had not and hadn't seen her since around 8 p.m. on November 29th. When he was asked if there had been a fight between the two of them, Tyler said no. And here's where the lies continue. He said he believed that Nikki had been in a fight with another female. He said he didn't see the fight actually take place, but he believed that Nikki was having an affair with another woman. He further stated that he and Nikki had a great relationship and were a happy couple, and that there had never been any physical violence between the two of them. Again, he said he had never laid a hand on Nikki and was unsure how she'd gotten the injuries.
The police were smarter than Tyler gave them credit for, and he was charged with 1 count of corporal injury to spouse, 1 count of false imprisonment by violence, 1 count of making criminal threats, and 1 count of assault likely to produce great bodily injury.
So for the next few months, Nikki stayed with her mom and her sisters, intermittently bouncing from one home to another. However, she did remain in contact with Tyler. And at one point, because of the condition from his suspended license charge that, if you remember, prevented him from driving, Tyler told Nikki that he needed a ride to a court hearing, and she obliged. But this was a trick. Instead, when she picked him up, he made her drive him to his attorney's office, where the attorney tried to bully Nikki into recanting her statement about the domestic incident from November 29th. And when she declined to do so, Tyler left in Nikki's car, leaving her stranded at the attorney's office. Over the next several months, Tyler tried in vain to convince Nikki to drop the charges against him, but she remained strong. The charges would stay. So then he attempted to sweet-talk her into moving back in with him. He told her that he'd change and they'd get their kids back and things would be like they were before. And it worked. Nikki moved back in with Tyler. However, she stood strong on her charges against him. He would have to face his day in court for the things that he'd done to her on that scary November night. And so on May 7th, just 2 weeks before Nikki disappeared, the preliminary hearing for Tyler's domestic violence charges commenced. And he pleaded not guilty to all 4 of the felony charges against him. That same day, Nikki texted her sister Chloe, saying that she was finally done with Tyler and that she was preparing to divorce him. She was already looking at furniture for a new home and putting a plan together to regain custody of her children. A confident and determined Nikki was now looking toward a future without her violent, drug-addicted husband. On May 17th, 2024, Nikki and Chloe were texting back and forth when Nikki let Chloe know that she was at the hospital with Tyler and Tyler's mom, Jeanette. They were visiting Tyler's brother, Brian. Now, Brian was in the ICU because of a medical emergency, which was serious enough that Tyler and Jeanette feared that he might die. This didn't immediately raise any red flags for Chloe and Kay. Chloe said, "Given the situation, because it was a family emergency, I didn't think it was out of the ordinary." If you remember from the beginning of this episode, that's who Nikki was. She was an extremely caring and forgiving person. And despite the violence and abuse, Nikki had a history with Tyler's family, so it's not surprising that she would want to do whatever she could for these people that she obviously still cared about. Even Chloe still believes this to be the case, saying, "I think that Nikki was like, okay, let's go to the hospital and be with Brian." I think she still loved Tyler's family. She really cared about them. There are still a lot of unanswered questions about what actually happened that day. But what we've been able to gather from interviews with Nikki's sisters, it's likely that Nikki drove Jeanette to the hospital in Jeanette's car. We believe this because Jeanette was probably too upset to drive. Now, Chloe said, "So we're texting back and forth almost the whole night, and then at midnight, Nikki said she had Jeanette's car and that she was getting ready to take the car back to Jeanette's house." This was the last time anyone heard from Nikki. Chloe went to sleep, but woke up early the next morning and texted Nikki asking how Tyler's brother Brian was. Nikki didn't respond. Chloe tried texting again. Nothing. Then again, an hour later. No reply at all. The next day, one of Nikki's daughters had a soccer tournament, but Chloe, who, if you remember, was sharing guardianship of Nikki's children, couldn't find a soccer jersey. So she texted Nikki again, asking if Nikki knew where her daughter's soccer uniform was. And again, her text went unanswered. Chloe thought maybe the jersey had ended up with Tyler's mom, Jeanette. Sometimes after soccer games or on weekends, Nikki's daughters would stay over at Jeanette's house, their grandmother's house. And often the uniforms would wind up there. So Chloe's fiance went to Jeanette's house and asked if they'd seen the jersey. And this is where the story takes its first turn. When Chloe's fiance got to Jeanette's house, he inquired about the soccer jersey and then asked about Nikki going to the hospital with Jeanette the night before. And Jeanette brushed it off. She then said she herself didn't stay at the hospital because she was just too upset to watch her son die. Nikki's sister Kay said while hearing about Jeanette's inconsistent story, it didn't immediately give the family any concern. But after a few days, worry did begin to set in for Nikki's family. By Tuesday, May 21st, Nikki's sisters realized that nobody had heard from Nikki since the night of the 17th. 4 days had passed and Nikki had gone completely radio silent. No texts, no calls, nothing. So on Wednesday, the 22nd, Nikki's family agreed to report her missing to the Reading Police Department. And shortly after that, and completely out of the blue, Chloe received a text from Tyler, and it read, "Have you heard from your sister? I think she's missing." When Nikki's family pressed Tyler for more details, he told them that he and Nikki had gotten into a fight the night of the 17th at his mother's house. And after the fight, Nikki had left. However, soon after that, he switched up his story. And now he started saying that the fight had occurred at their home in Happy Valley. The inconsistency in Tyler's story wasn't the concerning thing for Nikki's family. It was Tyler's change of behavior. If you recall, anytime Tyler and Nikki would get into a fight, Nikki would leave and stay at one of her sister's houses or even with her mother. And when things cooled off, Tyler would inevitably text Nikki telling her that he was sorry for what had happened, that he promised things would get better, and then ask her to take him back. But this time, Tyler's approach was different. Not only did he contact the family directly, but he had also waited 3 full days before contacting them. None of this was adding up. So on the night of Wednesday, May 22nd, Chloe went out to Tyler and Nikki's house with a Shasta County Sheriff's deputy to conduct a wellness check on Nikki. But nobody was home. The next day, another wellness check was made at their home, and again, nobody was there. On Friday, Chloe returned a 3rd time, at which point she found Tyler at home. Tyler told Chloe that he didn't know where Nikki was, but he did say that Nikki's Chevy Avalanche had broken down on a bridge off of Bowman Road in neighboring Tehama County. Chloe offered to drive him to pick up the truck, but Tyler declined, saying that he would get a friend to help him retrieve the vehicle. After this interaction, Chloe immediately called Kay, and they agreed to go search for the truck themselves. There are only a few bridges on Bowman Road, and when Chloe and Kay checked each of them, there was no sign of Nikki's avalanche. Chloe then returned to Nikki's house to follow up with Tyler and check on things. And she spoke to a man named Justin who had been living in a trailer on Nikki and Tyler's property. Now here's another moment where Tyler's story starts to unravel. When Chloe asked Justin if he'd seen either Nikki or her truck, Justin said that he didn't know where Nikki was, but he had seen Tyler driving around in the avalanche. He also told her on the night of the 17th, Tyler asked him to go pick Nikki up from Jeanette's house because Nikki didn't have a ride home. Justin said he went to Jeanette's home, spoke with both Nikki and Jeanette, and then drove Nikki back to Happy Valley, which, if you remember, is where Nikki and Tyler's home is located. On May 25th, 2024, Shasta County law enforcement found Nikki's 2002 Chevy Avalanche in Tehama County. It's about 40 minutes east of Nikki's home. The truck had been left in an extremely rural area that was surrounded by hills, and it was only accessible by a road that not many people were familiar with.
This was a noteworthy location as far as Nikki's sister Kay was concerned. She said, "It's an area that Tyler's family had a lot of property on the way to that area. And it's one of those spots where if you don't frequent there, you wouldn't really even see it on a map. I was really shocked at the terrain. You see all these hills and it's just hills and this road. It's kind of like this eerie feeling like there's nothing there." She further stated, "We don't know how the car got there. It could have been there the whole time, or it could have been somewhere else the entire time and then planted there. It's not one of those things where Tyler could have driven there and ridden his bike back home. Someone had to have followed them there. It's quite the trek."
So let's walk through this information a little bit. It's important to point out that Justin, the person staying on Nikki and Tyler's property at the time of Nikki's disappearance, said he saw Tyler driving Nikki's truck after Nikki had gone missing, sometime between May 17th and May 25th. But Tyler told Chloe that he heard that her Avalanche was seen parked at a bridge out on Bowman Road. So we have questions. How did Tyler know that? Who did he hear it from? And why was the Avalanche found in a different location later, on the 25th? Due to the freshness of this case, there are still more questions than answers. But none of it looks good for Tyler. Within 2 days of locating the Avalanche, Nikki's family arranged a volunteer search party to meet up at the location where the truck was found. But no evidence was recovered, and there was no sign of Nikki anywhere. Many other searches were made. Even searches along the Rancheria lands were granted, as much as tribal laws would allow. And here I want to make an important note. Tyler didn't participate in any of the searches. Within a few weeks, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office conducted multiple interviews with Tyler and his family, though the details of those interviews remain unknown. Then on July 3rd of 2024, a fire started on Tyler and Nikki's 3.5-acre property. It resulted in a total of 98 acres burning. However, it only destroyed several vehicles belonging to Tyler. He claimed the fire started by a hot catalytic converter that had come into contact with dry grass. Tyler was given a citation for starting the fire, but he wasn't arrested because there wasn't significant enough evidence that the fire had been started because of criminal negligence. Also, interestingly enough, or you could call it coincidentally enough, or however you care to categorize it, the day before the fire on Nikki and Tyler's property occurred, another fire broke out just 16 miles from where Nikki's Chevy Avalanche was found. It burned through 19 acres in western Shasta County, near Yalabali and Winton Road. And this particular fire broke out on Tyler's cousin's remote backcountry property. The area was so severely burned that a search couldn't be made. To date, there's no proof that either of these fires has anything to do with each other. But isn't it an intriguing coincidence that not one but 2 fires happened within a day of each other on property owned by both Tyler and his family? On June 28th, 2024, Tyler appeared in court for the charges against him for domestic violence. Because of Nikki's missing person status, Superior Court Judge Daniel Flynn issued a continuance for Tyler's case until July 5th. On that day, a motion was filed by the Shasta County District Attorney's Office for the charges to be dismissed as there was, quote, insufficient evidence because the victim was a missing person, and there was an ongoing investigation into her disappearance. And if you're wondering why that happened, the judge cited Tyler's constitutional right to face his accuser as justification for the dismissal. Outside, Nikki's family held a Justice for Nikki rally at the steps of the Shasta County Courthouse. More than 200 people showed up to lend their support on the day the charges against Tyler were officially dropped. Both of Nikki's sisters, Chloe and Kay, confronted Tyler, shouting, "Where's my sister?" and "Where's Nikki?" as Tyler approached the courthouse entrance. His response? He held up his middle finger to both sisters and the group of protesters as he walked. On July 31st, 2024, Tyler was pulled over by police and arrested for driving with a suspended license from his DUI charge from 2020. And also because ammunition was found in the vehicle Tyler was driving. So he got another charge for violating the court order to prevent domestic violence. This is an order that prohibits Tyler from possessing firearms or even ammunition. Tyler was a no-show for his August 19th trial date, and his attorney asked for an additional settlement conference. So where does Nikki's case stand today? As of the release of this podcast episode, Nikki is still missing, and her family remains desperate for answers. Meanwhile, Tyler's story about Nikki continues to change. He has told one person that Nikki ran away with a female love interest, and then he told someone else that she ran away with another man to Las Vegas. Tyler's mom, Jeanette, has changed her story too. Now she says that an Uber picked Nikki up from her home the night she went missing. But prior to that, Tyler, Justin, and Jeanette told Nikki's family that Justin picked Nikki up from Jeanette's home. That's more inconsistencies, more red flags, and more questions without answers. As of today, Nikki's family are relying on the help of strangers to help them find Nikki. And that includes anyone listening to this podcast. You can start by visiting the Facebook page, the NorCal Alliance for the Missing. It was started for Nikki's missing persons case. It's called Help Find Nikki Cheng-Saelee McCain, and you can find it on facebook.com/people/help find Nikki Cheng-Saelee McCain. Nikki's sister Kay says, "This is all we think about. It's the most important thing in the world." If you or someone you know has information about Nikki or how she disappeared, please contact the Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit at 530-245-6135. Or you can email mcu@shastacounty.gov. You can also submit tips through scsecretwitness.com/submit-a-tip. Nikki is described as being around 5 feet tall, weighing 100 pounds with brownish-red hair and brown eyes. She has a forearm tattoo with flowers. Here at the Murder Diaries, we'd also like to extend a heartfelt thank you to Nikki's sisters, Kay and Chloe, just for everything they've done over the past year. Your tireless dedication to seeking justice and answers in Nikki's disappearance, often on your own, is truly inspiring. Your support with our podcast coverage means the world, and we deeply appreciate your willingness to share your journey with us and our listeners. This episode was made possible because of your help, and your unwavering commitment to Nikki is a powerful testament to the love of a sister. Thank you for everything.
Make sure to follow us on all of our socials at The Murder Diaries Pod and head over to patreon.com/The Murder Diaries or click the link in the show notes to listen early and ad-free. Until then,
Stay safe.
bye.